I'm staring at my phone screen right now, and my hands are literally shaking. The Airbnb listing that just popped up shows my own lake cabin, the one I inherited from my grandmother 3 years ago, being rented out for $210 a night. The photos show my living room, my kitchen, even my bedroom with the quilt Grandma Rose made spread across the bed like it belongs to strangers. My cousins Dexter and Marlo have been checking on the property for me every few weeks since I moved to the city for work. They said they wanted to help family, said it was the least they could do since I couldn't get up there regularly anymore. I trusted them. God, I was so stupid to trust them. The math is making me sick. $210 a night, and according to the calendar, they've been booking it almost every weekend for the past 8 months. That's over $4,000 a month they've been pocketing while I've been struggling to pay my rent here in Denver, eating ramen noodles and skipping meals to make ends meet. I scroll through the reviews with my heart pounding so hard I can hear it in my ears. Cozy cabin with amazing lake views. Dexter and Marlo were such gracious hosts. Can't wait to come back next summer. There are dozens of them. Dozens of strangers sleeping in my bed, using my grandmother's dishes, probably going through my personal things that I left there thinking they'd be safe. My finger hovers over Dexter's number for what feels like forever before I finally press call. It rings twice before his voice comes through, all casual and friendly like he hasn't been stealing from me for months. "Hey there, Paisley. How's city life treating you?" His tone makes my stomach churn because it sounds so normal, so completely unbothered. Cut the act, Dexter. My voice comes out shakier than I want it to. I found the Airbnb listing. The silence that follows is deafening. I can practically hear him scrambling for an explanation, and when he finally speaks, his voice has dropped that fake cheerfulness. "Listen, Paisley, we can explain." Explain what? How you've been making thousands of dollars off my property while I've been living paycheck to paycheck? How you've been letting complete strangers sleep in my grandmother's bed? I'm pacing now, my free hand clenched into a fist. Do you have any idea what I've been going through down here? I've been eating cereal for dinner because I can barely afford groceries, and you two have been living it up on my money. "We were going to tell you," he says, but his voice sounds hollow, caught. "We just thought. The cabin was sitting empty anyway, and we've been maintaining it, putting money into repairs." "With whose permission?" I snap. "And where's my cut? Where's any explanation of what you've been doing with my property?" He's quiet again, and I can hear Marlo's voice in the background, urgent and panicked. They're talking, but I can't make out the words. "We need to meet," he finally says. "This isn't something to discuss over the phone." "You're damn right we need to meet. I'm driving up there tomorrow, and you better have every penny you've made, plus a full accounting of what you've done to my cabin." My heart is racing so fast I feel dizzy. "And Dexter? Don't you dare rent it out to anyone else, not one more night." The 3-hour drive to the lake gives me way too much time to think, and by the time I pull into the gravel driveway, I'm so angry I can barely see straight. But what I find there makes my blood run cold. There's a silver SUV parked where my car used to sit, and through the windows I can see people inside my cabin, strangers with their feet up on my grandmother's coffee table, drinking what looks like wine from her good glasses. I sit in my car for a moment, trying to process this. They're still renting it out. Even after I explicitly told Dexter to stop, even after I said I was coming up here today, they have the audacity to keep taking money from paying guests. My hands are trembling as I call Dexter again. It goes straight to voicemail. I try Marlo. Same thing. That's when I notice another car pulling up behind me, a beat-up pickup truck that I recognize belongs to Marlo's boyfriend, Camden. He gets out with this smug expression on his face that makes me want to scream, and Dexter emerges from the passenger side looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "You need to leave," Camden says, before I can even get out of my car. "You can't just show up here unannounced when there are paying customers inside." Paying customers? I practically shriek, rolling down my window. In my cabin? On my property? I'm shaking so hard I can barely hold the phone I'm still clutching. I told you people to stop this! Dexter at least has the decency to look ashamed. But Camden steps closer to my car with his chest puffed out like some kind of tough guy. Look, lady, we've got a business arrangement here, and you're disrupting it. These people paid good money for a weekend getaway. I'm the owner of this property, I shout, my voice cracking. I have every right to be here. That's when I see Marlo coming around the side of the cabin, and she's got this cold, calculating look in her eyes that I've never seen before. She's not the sweet cousin I remember from family gatherings. She looks like someone who's been caught and is ready to fight dirty to keep what she's stolen. You three need to get those people out of my cabin right now, I say, stepping out of my car despite my legs feeling like jelly. And then we're going to have a very serious conversation about how you're going to pay me back every single penny you've stolen. Marlo laughs, actually laughs, and the sound is so bitter it makes my skin crawl. Stolen? We've been taking care of this place while you abandoned it. We've put our own money into repairs, advertising, cleaning supplies. You think this just runs itself? I never abandoned anything. My voice is getting higher, more desperate. I moved for work. That doesn't give you the right to turn my inheritance into your personal piggy bank. Camden steps between us, and I can smell alcohol on his breath even though it's barely noon. Look, Paisley, you don't understand how business works. We've got contracts with these people, legal obligations. You can't just show up and kick paying customers out because you're having some kind of emotional breakdown. The word breakdown hits me like a slap. Emotional breakdown? You people have been committing fraud. You've been forging rental agreements on property you don't own. That's when Dexter finally speaks up, his voice quiet and strained. Maybe we can work something out. Split the profits going forward. Make it official. Split the profits? I'm so stunned I can barely form words. On my own property? With money you stole from me? The audacity is breathtaking. There are no profits to split, Dexter. There's just theft that needs to be repaid. Marlo's expression turns even colder. You know what, cousin? You walked away from this place. You left it sitting here empty while we did all the work. Finders keepers, as far as I'm concerned. Something inside me snaps at those words. Finders keepers. Like my grandmother's legacy is some toy they found on a playground. Get out, I whisper, then louder. Get out! All of you! Get out of here right now! But instead of backing down, Camden takes another step toward me, and there's something in his eyes that makes my mouth go dry with fear. You're the one who needs to leave, lady, before this gets ugly. The threat is unmistakable, and suddenly I realize I'm completely alone here with three people who clearly have no intention of giving up their cash cow without a fight. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely dial 911, but somehow I manage it while backing toward my car. Camden's following me with that menacing look, and Marlo's right behind him with her arms crossed like she's enjoying this confrontation. 911, what's your emergency? I need police at 42 Pine Lake Road, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. People are illegally occupying my property and threatening me when I try to remove them. Camden's face goes white when he hears me talking to the dispatcher. Hang up that phone right now, he hisses, but I'm already getting into my car and locking the doors. I'm the property owner, I continue, giving the dispatcher my name and details. These people have been running an illegal rental business on my land without permission, and now they're refusing to leave and making threats. Through my windshield, I can see Dexter frantically talking to Marlo, gesturing wildly with his hands. Camden's pacing back and forth like a caged animal, and I realize they're probably figuring out how much trouble they're actually in. The dispatcher keeps me on the line while I wait, and I used the time to take photos of everything: the rental car in my driveway, the people visible through my cabin windows, Camden and Marlowe standing there like they own the place. I even screenshot the Airbnb listing again, just to have extra proof. When the patrol car finally pulls up about 15 minutes later, I've never been so relieved to see anyone in my life. The officer is a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, but a no-nonsense demeanor, and she listens carefully as I explain the situation. "So you have documentation that you own this property?" she asks, pulling out her notepad. I show her the deed I'd brought with me, my grandmother's will, and all the photos I've taken. "They've been doing this for 8 months behind my back," I explain. "I have bank records showing I've been struggling financially while they've been making thousands off my property." The officer nods and approaches Dexter, Marlowe, and Camden. I can't hear everything they're saying, but I can see Camden getting more and more agitated while Dexter looks like he's about to throw up. Then something happens that makes my heart sink. The officer comes back to me with a troubled expression. "Ma'am, they're claiming they have a rental agreement with you, and they're saying you gave them permission to sublet the property. Do you have anything in writing that contradicts this?" My stomach drops. Of course they're lying, but I realize I don't have anything in writing that explicitly forbids this. When they offered to check on the property, it was just casual family conversation. I never thought I needed legal documentation to prevent my own cousins from stealing from me. "Officer, I can prove they're lying," I say, my voice getting stronger as desperation kicks in. "Look at the Airbnb listing. It shows Dexter and Marlowe as the hosts, not me. If I had given them permission to rent my property, wouldn't my name be on there somewhere? And look at the dates. They've been doing this since last September, but I only found out yesterday." The officer examines my phone screen carefully, then walks back over to question my cousins again. This time, I can see Camden getting more aggressive, pointing at me and raising his voice. Marlowe keeps shaking her head and making gestures like she's trying to convince the officer of something. When the officer returns, she has a different expression. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see some identification from everyone involved, and I want to speak with the current renters inside the cabin." My heart starts pounding as she knocks on the cabin door. A middle-aged couple emerges, looking confused and a little annoyed at the disruption. The officer explains the situation, and I watch their faces change as they realize they might be caught up in something illegal. "We booked this through Airbnb," the woman says nervously. "We paid Dexter directly through the app. We have all our confirmation emails if you need them." "And when you booked it, who did the listing say owned the property?" the officer asks. The man pulls out his phone and scrolls through his emails. "It says the hosts are Dexter and Marlowe Patterson. There's no mention of anyone else." That's when I see something shift in the officer's demeanor. She looks at Dexter with a much more serious expression. "Sir, if you're advertising yourself as the property owner on a rental platform when you're not the actual owner, that's a form of fraud." Camden suddenly steps forward. "Look, this is all just a family misunderstanding. They're cousins. They work this stuff out between themselves all the time." But the officer holds up her hand. "I'm going to need everyone to step back. Ma'am," she says to me, "I'm going to ask these folks to vacate the property for now while we sort this out. You have clear documentation of ownership, and the rental guests confirm they were dealing directly with people who aren't the owners." I feel a surge of relief so strong it makes me dizzy. Finally, someone in authority is taking this seriously. But as the confused rental guests start gathering their belongings, I notice Camden whispering urgently to Marlowe. There's something about their body language that makes me nervous. They're not acting like people who are about to give up. They're acting like people who are planning something. "Officer," I say quietly, "I'm concerned about what they might do after you leave. They've already threatened me once today." She nods grimly. "I'm going to file a report, and I recommend you contact a lawyer about the financial aspects of this situation. Do you have somewhere safe to stay tonight? I decide to stay at the cabin that night, partly because I can't afford a hotel and partly because I'm terrified of what they might do to the place if I leave it unattended. I call my best friend Vivian back in Denver, and just hearing her voice makes me break down completely. "Paisley, honey, slow down," she says after I've sobbed through the whole story. "You did the right thing calling the police, but you cannot stay there alone tonight, not after they threatened you." "I don't have anywhere else to go," I whisper, looking around my grandmother's living room. Everything looks the same, but it feels violated somehow, knowing strangers have been living here, touching everything. And Viv, I found things. Personal things of mine that have been moved around. They've been going through my stuff. What kind of things? Photo albums, jewelry I left in the bedroom dresser. Some of it's missing. My voice cracks. Grandma's pearl earrings are gone. The ones she wore to my high school graduation. Vivian is quiet for a moment, and I can practically hear her getting angry on my behalf. "That's it. I'm driving up there tomorrow morning. You shouldn't be dealing with this alone." After we hang up, I spend the evening documenting everything I can find that's been taken or moved. The list is longer than I expected. Not just valuable items, but personal mementos that would mean nothing to anyone but me. It feels like they've been living in my life, not just my space. Around midnight, I'm finally starting to drift off when I hear something that makes my blood freeze. Footsteps on the gravel outside, trying to be quiet but not quite managing it. Then voices, hushed but urgent. I grab my phone and creep to the window, staying low. Through the curtains, I can see 3 figures moving around the side of the cabin toward the back where the guest bedroom window is. Even in the darkness, I recognize Camden's broad shoulders and Marlowe's distinctive walk. My hands are shaking as I dial 911 again, but before I can hit call, I hear the sound that will haunt me forever, the sharp crack of breaking glass. They're breaking into my cabin, into my grandmother's home, while I'm inside. 911. What's your emergency? The dispatcher's voice seems impossibly loud in the silent cabin. "They're breaking in," I whisper, barely able to form the words. "The people from earlier, they're breaking into my cabin through the window. I'm alone inside, and I'm terrified." "Are you somewhere safe in the house? Can you lock yourself in a room?" I can hear them moving around in the guest bedroom now, their voices getting bolder. Camden's laugh sends chills down my spine. "The bathroom!" I breathe, grabbing my purse and keys. I'm going to lock myself in the bathroom. But as I creep across the living room, I hear Camden's voice clearly through the thin walls. "She thinks she can just kick us out of our business? Time to teach Cousin Paisley a lesson she won't forget." I'm huddled in the bathroom with my back against the door, phone pressed to my ear while the dispatcher tries to keep me calm. Through the thin walls, I can hear them moving through my cabin like they own it, and their voices are getting louder and more aggressive. "She's probably hiding somewhere," Marlowe says, and the casual cruelty in her voice makes me feel sick. "Check the bedroom." "Police are on their way," the dispatcher tells me. "Stay where you are and keep this line open." But then I hear footsteps coming down the hallway toward the bathroom, and Camden's voice right outside the door. "Paisley, we know you're in there. Come out and let's talk like adults." "I've called the police," I manage to say through the door, trying to sound braver than I feel. "They're on their way." Camden laughs, but it's not a nice sound. "Good. When they get here, we'll tell them how you attacked us, how you've been harassing us and making threats. 3 witnesses against 1 crazy woman who can't handle family business." "That's not what happened, and you know it," I say. But my voice is shaking so badly, I don't sound convincing even to myself. That's when I hear Dexter's voice, sounding panicked. "Guys, we need to go. This is getting out of hand. Breaking and entering is serious." "Shut up, Dexter," Marlowe snaps. "She's the one who escalated this. She could have worked with us, but she chose to be difficult. I can hear them arguing now, and I realize this isn't just about money anymore. They're genuinely angry that I stood up to them, that I didn't just roll over and let them keep stealing from me. In their minds, I'm the problem for not going along with their scheme. The sound of sirens in the distance has never been more beautiful. Through the small bathroom window, I can see red and blue lights reflecting off the trees as the patrol cars turn down the lake road. "Police!" Camden hisses, and I hear scrambling sounds like they're trying to figure out what to do. "Back window," Marlowe says urgently. "We can say we heard glass breaking and came to check on her." But it's too late. Through the bathroom door, I hear the unmistakable sound of the front door being opened and a commanding voice. "Police! Everyone show me your hands!" "Thank God," I whisper to the dispatcher. "They're here." When I finally emerge from the bathroom 20 minutes later, all 3 of my cousins are in handcuffs. The same officer from earlier is taking my statement, and she looks genuinely concerned about the escalation. Breaking and entering, criminal trespass, and now we're looking at possible stalking and intimidation charges, she explains. This has gone way beyond a family dispute. I'm shaking so hard I can barely hold the pen to sign my statement, but for the first time in 24 hours, I feel like someone is actually protecting me. Vivian arrives the next morning looking like she drove all night, which she probably did. She takes one look at my face and immediately wraps me in the kind of hug that makes me start crying all over again. "I brought reinforcements," she says, gesturing to her car where I can see file folders and a laptop bag. "My brother-in-law Marcus is a lawyer, and when I told him what happened, he cleared his schedule to drive up here with me." Marcus turns out to be exactly what I need. Calm, methodical, and absolutely furious on my behalf. Over coffee at the cabin's kitchen table, he helps me organize 8 months' worth of theft into actual legal language. Based on the Airbnb calendar and their average nightly rate, we're looking at approximately $34,000 in stolen rental income, he says, showing me his calculations. That's felony theft in this state, not to mention fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and now the breaking and entering charges. The number hits me like a physical blow. $34,000. While I was eating ramen and skipping meals, they were stealing enough money to change my entire life. "There's more," Marcus continues, pulling out printed emails. "I had a friend run a preliminary asset search on your cousins. Dexter bought a new truck 6 months ago, paid cash. Marlowe put a down payment on a condo. Camden's been posting on social media about expensive fishing equipment and vacation trips." I stare at the photos he shows me, my cousins living it up on my stolen money while I was struggling to make rent. The betrayal cuts so deep I can barely breathe. "The good news is that the criminal charges are solid," Marcus explains. "Breaking into an occupied dwelling with intent to intimidate is a serious felony. The prosecutor I spoke with this morning says they're looking at real jail time, especially since this was clearly premeditated retaliation." 3 days later, I'm sitting in a courtroom watching my cousins face a judge. They look so different in their orange jumpsuits, smaller somehow, and definitely not as confident as they were when they were threatening me. The prosecutor lays out the case methodically. 8 months of systematic theft, fraudulent rental agreements, intimidation, and finally breaking and entering with criminal intent. The judge's expression gets more severe with each charge. When it's time for bail hearings, Camden's family can't make his bond. Dexter and Marlowe get out, but they're ordered to have no contact with me and to stay at least 500 feet away from my property. Walking out of that courthouse, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Powerful. Not just because they're facing consequences, but because I stood up for myself when it mattered most. "The civil suit will take longer," Marcus warns me as we drive back to the cabin. "But with the criminal convictions, we'll be able to recover damages, legal fees, and probably punitive damages, too." That evening, alone in my grandmother's cabin for the first time in almost a year without fear, I sit on the dock watching the sunset reflect off the lake. Tomorrow, I'll change all the locks, install security cameras, and start the process of rebuilding what they stole. 6 months later, I'm standing in the same courtroom, but everything feels different now. Today is sentencing day, and I'm no longer the terrified woman who hid in a bathroom fearing for her life. I'm the woman who fought back and won. Camden gets 18 months in county jail plus 5 years probation. The judge specifically mentions his role as the primary instigator and his threats of violence. Dexter gets 12 months and community service. The judge noted his apparent remorse and cooperation with prosecutors. Marlo gets 15 months, and when she tries to glare at me from across the courtroom, I stare right back without flinching. The civil settlement came through last month. After legal fees, I recovered $28,000 of the stolen money, plus punitive damages that brought the total to $42,000. Marcus also negotiated the return of Grandma's pearl earrings, which Camden's girlfriend had been wearing in social media photos. But the real victory isn't the money. It's what I've built with it. I quit my soul-crushing job in Denver and moved back to the lake permanently. I'm running my own legitimate Airbnb business now, but I live in the cabin and only rent out the guest cottage I had built with part of the settlement money. The irony isn't lost on me that their criminal scheme showed me how profitable the property could be when managed honestly. Vivian helped me install security cameras and a smart lock system. I've got motion sensors and a direct line to local police. No one will ever violate this space again without consequences. The family has been interesting to navigate. Some relatives think I was too harsh. That family should stick together no matter what. Others have reached out to apologize for not seeing what was happening sooner. My Aunt Patricia, Dexter's mother, sent me a letter saying she was ashamed of her son's actions and that Grandma Rose would be proud of how I stood up for myself. Last week, I got a message request on social media from Camden. Even from jail, he wanted to negotiate, to convince me to ask the prosecutor to reduce his sentence. I screenshotted it and sent it straight to Marcus, then blocked the account. Some people never learn. The cabin feels like home again. I've redecorated the guest bedroom they broke into, replacing everything that felt contaminated by their presence. The living room has new furniture bought with money I earned honestly. And every morning, when I wake up to the sunrise over the lake, I remember that I'm not a victim anymore. I'm a survivor who refused to stay silent. The lake property that was supposed to be my inheritance of peaceful memories became something else entirely. Proof that I'm stronger than I ever knew, that I can fight for what's mine and win. Now tell me, what would you do if you were in my place? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and comment where you're watching from.